Hello, I'm Gregory C. Allen, the director of the Wadhwani Center for AI and Advanced Technologies here at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Today, we have a discussion around Japan's international AI diplomacy and specifically the next steps for the Hiroshima AI Process, one of the leading international forums for advancing international cooperation on AI governance. And with us to discuss this issue today, we have Yoichi Iida, who is the Assistant Vice Minister for International Affairs at the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. He chaired the G7 Working Group on Digital and Tech Policy when Japan was the G7 president in 2023. During this time, Japan advanced the major conversations around AI governance, including establishing the Hiroshima AI process, which we're going to talk about today. Mr. Iida has also chaired the G20 Digital Policy Committee that discussed G20 AI principles, which were endorsed by leaders around the world. And he has also been serving as the chair of the OECD Committee on Digital Economy Policy. So, Mr. Iida, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good evening, colleagues. I'm very happy to be invited here together with you, and thank you very much for your continuous support to our work, Greg.
Well, thank you. And there's many topics that I want to talk with you today about what Japan is doing on the topic of AI governance. But before we get into that, I'd like to discuss a little bit about you personally and your background. So how did you come to work on AI policy, both in the Japanese government and then as part of the international AI governance process?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, as kindly introduced by Greg in the beginning, I work for international affairs at the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication. So I mainly work for the communication sphere, and I work and dedicated in international aspect. So I had a chance to chair the G7 working group when Japan took the G7 presidency in previous round, which was in the year 2016, and we discussed the many items related to ICT policymaking, and one of them was the AI governance at global phase, and Japan proposed to discuss internationally the AI governance because it was a time of what we called a third AI boom, and we proposed to discuss AI global AI governance. Interestingly, at the time, many of my colleagues in the ICT working group were not very much active to pick this up, because at that moment, AI was rather regarded as a kind of a standalone technology or computer application rather than ICT policy element or something working on network. But we believed, AI will bring us enormous impact when it works interactively over the network. And that was because we proposed this topic as part of the ICT policy discussion, which is now succeeded to as part of the digital policy making. So that was actually the beginning of my career to be involved in international discussion on AI. I am covering many other aspects such as digital infrastructure, data usage, data flow, and also some aspects related to internet governance. But actually these days, the AI takes more than 80% of my time.
Yeah.
So it is very important to continue our efforts to promote AI governance globally. And I'm very happy to work together with so many colleagues from around the world, such as Greg from CASIS and others from not only from the government, but also from industry, academia, and even the civil society.
Terrific. And I'm delighted to hear that, there are some out there who say that AI really began in 2022. But of course, you and I know that that's false. And you, in fact, have been a part of the AI policy community for the better part of a decade now, and really in a very good position to deal with what you might call the fourth AI boom, embodied in generative AI revolution in late 2022. So of course, you were in an extremely strong position to take up the mantle once again when Japan was the president of the G7 in 2023, and you were one of the key individuals in the Japanese government organizing AI policy work during the G7 presidency. What do you see as Japan's and the G7's major accomplishments from last year?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, as you mentioned, we didn't start this discussion in 2022, but we started the discussion much earlier than that. But still, it was very important timing when we saw a rapid rise of generative AI at the end, near the end of 2022. We started the discussion on AI governance when we started our preparation for our presidency in 2023. And the original intention on our side was we wanted to strengthen the coherence across different jurisdictions, different approaches, particular in within G7 group and also beyond. As all of you recognize, even in the middle of 2022, EU was already discussing the AI Act, which includes legally binding instruments, while US and Japan were still pursuing a soft law approach or non-binding approach. And so we didn't want to see, the fragmentation of the governance frameworks and approaches, even in this small group of G7. And we see a lot of gaps and the different ways developing across the world. But we wanted to start with G7 to strengthen the coherent global AI governance framework, and that was the original intention of our work. So in the digital and tech ministerial meeting, which was held at the end of April, the ministers agreed on strengthening interoperability across jurisdictions, which meant we recognize the differences and the gaps in approaches to AI governance, but still we need to promote the coherence and interoperability between different frameworks. Otherwise, we will fall in fragmentation of the governance frameworks across the world. And that was the very important element we reached in G7. And that was the beginning of Hiroshima AI process. While discussing AI governance on AI in general, we saw a rapid rise of generative AI. And when the ministers got together at the end of April, they agreed on the importance of interoperability of AI governance in general, but they also recognized, they need to continue their discussion on generative AI. Otherwise, the AI governance discussion is not completed. So they decided to continue their discussion on generative AI, and the proposal was taken by the leaders when the leaders got together in Hiroshima in May. and the leaders gave the name of Hiroshima AI Process to the initiative. So that was the beginning, but the agreement on interoperability, it was very important element, and that was the basis of Hiroshima Process.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think the fact that the various countries of the G7 began 2023 relatively far apart in their negotiating position on what could be done in AI governance, and it really is a testament to the tremendous leadership under the Japanese G7 presidency that you identified, where agreement is unlikely to be reached, but also where there actually was this possibility to reach agreement and facilitate future cooperation by ensuring that while different countries will likely go their own way in AI regulation in some respects, there was this need and shared commitment to interoperability that was achievable. And it was a remarkable success in, of course, an incredibly hectic time for AI policy internationally and domestically as well. You talked a little bit about the Hiroshima AI process and how it was an outgrowth of the work that was begun on interoperability and concluded, with the April ministerial and the May leaders summit. But could you talk a little bit about what the Hiroshima AI process is as a construct and what sorts of problems it's intended to work on?
Okay, thank you. Actually, as I said, Hiroshima process was intended to approach the risks and the challenges brought by generative AI. As many of the audience witnessed, the people around the world were surprised to see the performance of ChatGPT, and many of them were frightened. So we thought we need to make use of this technology, which is very powerful. But in order to do that, we need to put some guardrail around this technology so that people can make use of this, benefit from this technology without concern. So the Hiroshima process work started with the finding what would be the most significant risks and challenges brought by this powerful technology, and the OECD helped G7 in this regard. They did a kind of surveillance, and they compiled a report for G7 on opportunities and the risks and the challenges brought by generative AI. So that was the early foundation for the Hiroshima process discussion. And based on that report, we discussed how we could address those risks and the challenges, starting with the spread of disinformation and the lack of transparency, and also the risks to privacy and intellectual property, and so on, so forth. And we discussed what would be the principles for organizations who develop generative AI, and what would be the recommendations for actions and measures taken by those organizations. And that discussion developed the guiding principles and the code of conduct for organizations developing advanced AI systems. When we say advanced AI systems, we mean the kind of most advanced AI systems that include generative AI and the foundation models. We started with generative AI, but some people said in some cases we may want to talk about the foundation models without touching upon the generative AI in particular. And in some cases, or in many cases, generative AI systems are used together with other types of AI in an interactive way. So we didn't want to limit our discussion to generative AI itself, but we wanted to keep our discussion more broadly to cover new types and very powerful AI systems. So there is an implication that when new types of AI systems coming up, we will also try to apply those guiding principles and code of conduct to new AI systems. And maybe you may find when you go through the document of guiding principles of code of conduct, you will find the wording of living documents. We recognize our discussion was not completed in a sense that covers everything, but our effort needs to continue to fully understand what are the advanced AI systems and how we can respond to all kinds of risks and challenges, which may not be apparent at that moment. So we decided to continue our work. Hiroshima AI process is a kind of process, continue to go on to explore how we can build up a safe, secure, and trustworthy AI around the world and respond quickly to newly emerging risks and challenges from very new technologies. So that is the overview of Hiroshima process, and in my understanding, this continues its work for years, over the years.
Terrific. And I think the G7 as an institution, one of the challenges that it faces is that it does not have a permanent secretariat. And so sometimes, topics or processes can, drop between one presidency to the next presidency. But in this case, the Italians, as part of their 2024 G7 presidency, have repeatedly praised the work of Japan in 2023 and the Hiroshima AI process, and stated that this year's G7, the intention is to carry forward the work of the Hiroshima AI process, and also to even broaden it out and bring in other international institutions. So I'm curious, how is the Japanese government continuing to support the Hiroshima AI process this year, and then, as you said, in the following years?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, exactly. We always worry that the policy discussion is disrupted between different presidencies, in particular in the rotating presidency system such as G7 and G20. And in some cases, that it's good to refresh the policy discussions, but when it comes to a very important and continuous policy challenges, it is very important to continue the work. So we were a little bit worried when we succeeded our presidency to Italy, but Italy succeeded this work process in a very productive way, and actually G7 is continuing its work efforts to develop and promote Hiroshima AI process under Italian presidency this year. So Japanese government is very eager to support Italian presidency in their efforts to promote Hiroshima AI process. And this year, Italian presidency emphasized the building up the monitoring mechanism for Hiroshima process is one of their priorities, and we are very much supportive to this agenda setting, and we are closely working together at this moment.
That's terrific. And most recently, we had last month the March 2024 G7 Industry, Technology, and Digital ministerial meeting. And the output of that was a ministerial declaration which states that the G7's intention is to build upon the Hiroshima process with the support of OECD as a knowledge partner to the G7. Given your role and part of the leadership on AI policy in OECD as well, Can you describe what the OECD's role is in the Hiroshima AI process and where you think this partnership between G7 and OECD might be going?
Yeah, actually, as you described, OECD is a little bit different type of organization or institution. G7 and G20 has rotating presidency, and they don't have permanent secretariat. On the other side, OECD has very strong permanent secretariat. In particular, in the field of digital policymaking, we actually, the G7, all member countries and members of G7 put a very strong confidence on OECD's experience, expertise, and capability. So we are very happy to have OECD as knowledge partner. As I said previously, OECD has already worked with us when they elaborated the report on opportunities and risks and the challenges brought by generative AI when we started the work of Hiroshima process. And they stayed in the discussion continuously to make input. So we are very happy to have their support in our discussion on monitoring mechanism. As a chair of the Committee of Digital Policy at OECD, I personally know very well what they have done in the field of policy making in AI. They started their work right after the G7, Japanese G7 presidency, when we proposed international discussion on AI governance. Actually, we proposed to pick up AI governance at OECD Digital Committee right after we succeeded our G7 presidency to Italy at the end of 2016. And that was the time OECD started their AI policy work within their digital committee. So they have accumulated experience in this field, and they have a good knowledge how to collect information from government and from multi-stakeholder community, and they built up AI observatory, AI the network of experts, and that would give a lot of support to G7 discussion when we discuss on monitoring mechanism. At the same time, they have very good experience in building up a kind of reporting system, voluntary reporting system. In particular, up until now, they built up terrorist and extreme violent content where reporting mechanism where the many big platforms are requested to voluntarily report what and how they cope and respond to such violent and extremist content on their platform. And that kind of voluntary reporting system, which we call a transparency report, will be a very much useful instrument when we build up a monitoring mechanism. So I believe OECD is well placed and right organization to support in this work at the G7.
Well, you mentioned a lot of advantages that the OECD has in supporting this international AI governance work, including the fact that it is a permanent body with an established secretariat. It has relevant experience and knowledge in the AI policy domain, and also specifically in monitoring international agreements and compliance with international agreements. I think there's one other advantage, which perhaps you didn't mention, which is it's just a larger group than the G7. And so I think the work of the Hiroshima AI process, of course, one of the advantages of the G7 is that it is a small group of countries with shared values and shared strategic interests. But the goal, of course, of AI governance is to have relevance on a more global scale. And the OECD, of course, has dozens of members who tend to be democracies with advanced economies, and is also like a very natural extension for the work of the G7 to now affect a larger community of countries.
Right. That is exactly one of our important objectives of our work at this moment. As you widely pointed out, G7 is a very small group with a strong commonality based on the shared values of democracy. So it is not too difficult to reach some agreement on policy elements when we discuss based on the shared values. But as you said, when we want to achieve a global governance framework, we need to reach out beyond G7, and OECD is the first place to go. So we are now talking to members of OECD who are also sharing the common values in digital economy, and we are encouraging them to share our outcomes from Hiroshima process and join us to work together to be in building up the global AI governance framework. So from that perspective, OECD is also a very appropriate forum.
And then the OECD has the Ministerial Council meeting coming up this May, which is going to be chaired by Japan this year. And so what can we look for in AI governance from that meeting?
Yes, thank you very much for mentioning this. Actually, this is the 60th anniversary for Japan as membership of OECD, and that is why we are taking the presidency of Ministerial Council, which will be held in the beginning of May. So we are now expecting to pick up AI governance as part of the Ministerial Council's agenda. And we are hoping to share the outcome from Hiroshima process, which are guiding principles and the code of conduct, with all members from OECD and even beyond who are joining the Ministerial Council together with us, and start the discussion how we can implement those guiding principles and the code of conduct into actions, and how we can work together with other stakeholders beyond the government, in particular the industry and the civil society in their own jurisdictions. So upcoming MCM at OECD will be very important chance for us, not only for Japanese government, but for G7 at large in promoting Hiroshima process.
Terrific. And in the meeting, obviously there's many issues worth discussing, and some of this, you're not privy to say because it has not yet been finalized. But can you give us any kind of a preview as to what to expect coming out of that May Ministerial Council meeting?
Yeah, we are hoping, we are promoting Hiroshima process at G7, but OECD started the review and update of their own AI principles, which was agreed and endorsed in 2019. And that is the robust foundation for all AI policy and governance discussion across the world. And the OECD AI principles were agreed and elaborated in 2019. So they started the review and update last year. And we are expecting to finalize the work to update the AI principles to be endorsed by ministers in MCM. And this is the basis for Hiroshima process discussion. So we are trying to show these two very important instruments are, what to say, the kind of set of same objectives, and these two instruments should go together hand in hand in the future to realize safe, secure, and trustworthy AI, including generative AI and foundation models. So we are expecting to see the completion of the work of update and review of AI principles by OECD, together with some expansion of support and adherence to Hiroshima AI process outcome by OECD members and additional some members beyond OECD.
Terrific. And one of the other things that the OECD does is it hosts an additional institution, the Global Partnership on AI, or the GPAI. And this is an international initiative that comes together to promote global collaboration on AI, not just on AI governance, but on many aspects of AI cooperation. And I'm curious, what do you see as the role of GPAI in the various G7 initiatives on global AI governance and cooperation, and also in OECD, now that there is this sort of relationship between the various institutions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, we regard GPAI as an international forum to support AI experts when they want to promote some discussions and studies and projects among experts from industry, academia, and civil society. So, and we, of course, believe, that those activities will make some productive input into the policy making. So we hope the GPAI will also join Hiroshima process work, in particular by promoting some projects which can contribute to the implementation of instrument produced by Hiroshima process, as well as OECD AI principles, and we look forward to working together with experts gathering at GPAI, who we expect to implement some project which can be supportive to our policy discussion, the policy implementation through the testing and finding, exploring the most effective and practical solutions to risks and challenges from AI.
Terrific. And then the Japanese government is individually working to expand its participation and support to GPAI. Could you talk a little bit about what is underway there?
Yeah, thank you very much for picking this up. Actually, last year, Japanese government took the rotating presidency of GPAI as well, and as part of our contribution to this framework, we proposed setting up the Tokyo Expert Support Center, which is expected to give financial and administrative support to experts when they promote and implement a project on their own. So now Tokyo or GPAI Tokyo Center is under the construction, and they are waiting for the launch, and we are waiting for the center to start their work to support experts in implementing a project, which we definitely believe will be supportive to our policymaking work in the near future.
Terrific. Well, I'm very much looking forward to the completed construction of the center and visiting it and you the next time I'm in Tokyo. So one of the things that we've talked about is broadening the work of the G7 out to a more global audience. And this year, the G7 has emphasized the importance of collaboration with developing countries, including in AI. Many developing countries are doing some things that are actually quite exciting in AI, both in adopting it for their economic development and growth, and also formulating their governance frameworks. I'm curious what opportunities you think the Code of Conduct as part of the Hiroshima AI process offers for strengthening the G7's outreach to developing countries and gathering international momentum for global AI, perhaps through subscription to the Code of Conduct.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, last night in Japan time, so maybe few hours ago, I joined a US initiative called AI Connect, where I met a lot of people from developing countries, including Africa and Southeast Asia, including small island countries, joining us, who made many questions on Hiroshima process. And they are trying to find how they can make use of these outcomes and what are the benefits to them. I would say, of course, they can share our experience, and they can make use of the knowledge and the experience when they want to build up their own governance framework under their jurisdiction, and they may also make use of those code of conduct and other instruments when they want to raise their AI industry and the ecosystem. So when from the very beginning, when we talked about the discussion in early G7 digital ministerial track last year, we always recognize, that the different countries, different societies, and different communities have different backgrounds, different conditions, different histories, and different requirements. And so AI governance approaches need to be different from from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, from society to society, but still we need to see the consistency and interoperability. So there is a lot of benefit, not only for them, but I mean the developing countries and the global south, but also for us to share the commonalities and the same ground to build up those different approaches in AI governance framework within the jurisdiction. So code of conduct and the guiding principles should provide the common ground for national policy making when they want to build up their own AI governance framework, building on their society, their culture, their economic conditions, but when they want to maintain and increase interoperability and consistency with global AI ecosystem.
Terrific. And one of the other advantages of GPAI as an institution is that it actually includes many developing countries, for example, India. And so there now is this sort of natural linkage between the G7 to the OECD to GPAI to broaden these initiatives out to a much larger and more diverse set of countries.
Right. India is such a active country, in particular in digital and AI policy making, and also the industrial activities. So GPAI, India is now the lead chair of GPAI, and they are promoting the lot of activities together with experts from industry and even the civil society to build up the AI ecosystem. And we are expecting very strongly to have India as a partner within Hiroshima process beyond G7, beyond OECD. And I personally I'm quite sure that India will be a very important partner in this framework.
Terrific. And before we talk about, what to look forward for in the remainder of the Italian G7 presidency, I recognize that some in the audience might not be familiar with Japan's domestic approach to AI governance. And so I wondered if you could sort of provide a brief overview of how Japan is approaching AI governance and regulation for its domestic economy and society.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a bit difficult question for me because I'm not deeply engaged in domestic policy making, but my colleagues are working on finalizing the AI guidelines, which were also elaborated a few years ago, but being updated and integrated now. We have different types of guidelines for business and consumers, users, but now we are integrated and updating, just like OECD did with their AI principles. And we are now putting the updated guideline in the center of our governance framework. But at the same time, in parallel, I believe my colleagues are considering what regulations may need to be implemented or enacted in different sectors when we look at the potential development in the near future, in particular when we keep the new types of powerful AI systems such as generative AI in sight. So different sectors and different applications may have different impacts, and different sectors have different existing regulatory frameworks, but they may find the additional element to be to be added in responding to the new situation. So I think the Japan is still keeping the software approach in general, but at the same time, my colleagues are thinking how we can respond to new situations in different sectors.
Terrific. Well, I know your diplomatic calendar is keeping you exceptionally busy this year. The G7 has this year, under the Italian presidency, decided to replicate the prior year approach of having 2 digital and technology ministerial meetings, which is a relatively unusual phenomenon. Prior to last year, I'm not even sure that had ever actually taken place before, but there's so much going on at the G7 in AI in particular, that both Japan and Italy decided that this was worthy of 2 ministerial meetings. I'm curious what you and what the Japanese government would like to see accomplished in the remainder of this G7 year.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, the 2 or 3 ministerials during 1 year was not intentional. It was it happened by chance, but it was successful anyway. And we are very happy to see Italy is following the same way and taking this opportunity We are hoping to complete the work on monitoring, of course, but we are also pursuing the work on expanding the government and other stakeholders, including industry organizations, who support and adhere to guiding principles of the code of conduct from Hiroshima process. That is very important for us. And also, as I said in my talk today, these guiding principles and the code of conduct call themselves a living document. So we know there should be more to be done to make these instruments workable and effective to respond to the emerging situations. So we want to have feedback from those stakeholders, including the government, who are joining and working together with us in promoting Hiroshima process on what are working well, what are not working well, what are missing within the current outcome. And I personally hope to start the work on updating the existing guiding principles and the code of conduct, which can be even more effective in addressing the risks and the challenges from those technologies, so that those technologies can contribute to the better welfare of the people and all organizations around the world.
Well, Assistant Vice Minister Yoichi Iida, you're really one of the most important folks driving international AI governance, cooperation, and collaboration, and really have had an incredible 18 months leading in international AI policymaking. So I want to thank you for your remarks today, and also for spending this time with CSIS and sharing the benefit of your insights.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I cannot forget, our first meeting before we started our presidency, and I had a lot of very, very helpful advices from you yourself and CSIS colleagues, which helped quite a lot during the discussion on Hiroshima process. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a real privilege to collaborate with you and with the G7 over these past 18 months. Thank you so much. So this now concludes our event. Thank you so much for tuning in. CSIS is going to continue doing work on AI governance, including tracking what's going on at the G7, OECD, and GPAI for the remainder of this year. So please visit our website at csis.org to see all the work that we're doing in this area.